The book of Proverbs is just one of my favorite books. It's a beautiful book, and I do encourage you to sit down and to read it, and to take notes on what you are reading. The reading today from chapter 9, verse 1. When you get through Proverbs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you're reading this back and forth that happens in the mind of the one writing these Proverbs between the woman who is wisdom and the woman who is foolhardy. And they're pitting these two characters against one another. And here you have the woman wisdom preparing a feast. She is preparing a variety of different entrees, having slaughtered her animals, and she's taking wines, and she's mixing them, so that everybody gets to have the same glass of wine. There isn't going to be one good wine left or a bad wine. Everything's just getting all mixed up together. If you have a wine collection yourself, have you ever done anything like that? Have you taken just a whole bunch of wines and poured them into one thing together? No, you wouldn't do that. But that's what they did back in those days, because it wasn't like it was crafted from some vineyard where there are potatoes in the field, and you can almost smell the potato in the root of the whatever. You mix the wines, and you slaughter the animals, and you set the table. And the feast that she is preparing is open to anybody who will come. And the invitation itself, Scott, wasn't that a little weird? She sends her maids out into the street to invite people to come to the feast. And this is not what she says. She doesn't say, "Come one, come all to the feast that wisdom sets. Come to this table and find food for your soul." No. She says, "Come, you simple ones." She says, "Come, you have no sense, you who have no sense." Would you respond to an invitation like that? I'm throwing a party for the people who are simple and who don't think straight. Would you go? Probably not. Because it feels like an insult. But I want you to remember who is throwing the party. The party is being thrown by wisdom herself. Wisdom personified. To turn down an invitation from wisdom would be like turning down an invitation from Jordan Spieth to learn how to play golf because you're a 2 handicap. It would be like turning down an invitation to learn how to play basketball from Michael Jordan or Steph Curry because you used to play in college. It would be like turning down an invitation to learn about poetry from Maya Angelou because you came up with a poem that went something like this when you were a kid. Roses are red, violets are blue, some poems rhyme and some don't. And you thought that was brilliant. And so you decide, I'm a poet and I don't need to hear from Maya Angelou. To turn down an invitation from wisdom, the personification of wisdom because you feel that you're not simple and you do have an idea of what's right and wrong. You have to look at it in comparison between who wisdom is and what wisdom has to offer versus where we are in life. And when you take a look at the gap that exists between our own wisdom and knowledge and that which is owned by wisdom personified, the very wisdom of God, it's a massive gap. And so in comparison, yes, we are simple. In comparison, yes, we do lack sense. And so we need to come to the feast in order to find food for our soul and to find peace for our mind, joy for our hearts. Wisdom has set her she has mixed her wine, she has prepared a feast, and she lays out throughout that book of Proverbs a feast of the kinds of principles and values that can undergird a life and make you live a strong, contented life. She will show you the blessing of living honorably, and she will show you what it costs to be lazy. She will teach you compassion, and she'll help you learn who your real friends are. She provides principles that apply from the playground to Wall Street, from your home to the houses of governmental leaders who run the world. Read Proverbs and take note of the ones that catch your attention. Read them over and over again. And don't read Proverbs like you're trying to jet through a book because Pastor said I ought to read Proverbs. I ask you to take your time. When was the last time you ate a meal so good that you didn't want to rush it? Do you remember that? I bet it wasn't a hot dog at Camden Yards. When was the last time? Do you remember that meal? That it was so good you actually did chew 32 times before you swallowed because you wanted to enjoy every bite. I ask you to read Proverbs that way. When you come across one that catches your attention, focus on it for a while. Write it down. Try to find out why it is that God has caught you up in this. If you go too fast, the couplets will just fly by you, and you won't have time to ask the questions as to why these are set in opposition to one another and how they speak to each other. So read it slowly. Among my favorite Proverbs is this one. It says, "Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses." Wounds from a friend can be trusted. An enemy multiplies kisses. Don't you need people in your life that will tell you if there's parsley in your teeth? Don't you need people in your life who will tell you if you're being obstinate and arrogant and you need to calm down and settle down and listen? Don't you need people in your life who will tell you the truth because they are truly looking out for you and for your best interests? And they want to see you succeed and do well? Think about the people whom you respect that God has put into your life. Were they the ones who said yes to you all the time? Or were they the ones who challenged you? Who helped you learn something about yourself that you were blind to? People who can show you your blind spots and help guide you around them. These are people that we need in our lives. An enemy multiplies kisses. Because that enemy is not looking out for you and not looking out for your best interest. That enemy is simply applauding everything that you do, as if everything you do is the best possible thing that could ever be done. Yay, good for you. Yay, good for you. Yay, good for you. And they keep letting you bump into your blind spots, and they keep letting you make the same mistakes over and over again that you're not aware of. And it's like they're just giving you enough rope to hang yourself. Have you heard that phrase before? They're just giving you enough to get you down the rabbit hole so you can't climb back out. You don't need enemies who multiply kisses. You need people who are going to be willing to tell you the truth. This is a good one too. And it kind of goes hand in hand with this other one. Fools think their own way is right. Fools think their own way is right. But the wise listen to advice. The wise will listen to the things that they don't want to hear, but the fool will ignore it and just go about doing things their own way anyway. Anybody know anybody like that? Before you start pointing a finger, ask yourself. Ask yourself, what have people been trying to tell me my whole life that I have yet to listen to? The principles of Proverbs are the backbone of Christian ethics. Earlier, we had in our prayer of confession a prayer that would invite us to live a life of integrity. And to have integrity, according to the Hebrew understanding of integrity, is to have what you think be what you say, be what you do. Thought, word, and deed are all of a piece. That is what it means to live with integrity. But it is possible to have integrity living along to a bad ethic. Do you know what I mean? It is possible to have integrity of process in ways that cheat people. So you think that the best thing that you can do is cheat a person out of something, and so you spend your whole life living with integrity toward the principle of cheating. That doesn't work. You need to have a better ethic than that. And so to live with integrity on the ethic that is provided to us in the book of Proverbs, which teaches us ways to interact with one another, ways that we can recognize who our real friends are, ways that businesses ought to be conducting themselves and governments ought to be conducting themselves and households ought to be conducting themselves. To live with integrity to that ethic is what will draw us to being a more holy people and a better disciple. So I'm giving you permission to not feel the pressure of the NT20 stuff. I'm giving you permission to turn into the book of Proverbs and to take your time and to drink in what it is that God is saying. Make it part of you. Bring that ethic to bear. Because when you live with integrity to the ethic that God establishes, that is where wisdom lies. So when Paul says, do not live as the unwise, but live as the wise, being a man who was raised in going to Hebrew school, he knew these proverbs, and that is exactly what stands behind that statement. To live with an ethic that God establishes and to live with integrity to it, that's what God wants to see from us. What's surprising to me, though, is that Paul, he doesn't just keep going with a list of behavioral concerns that he would have for the church in Ephesus. He just talks about drunkenness being debauchery, and then he moves on from there, as if that's the only problem that they have in Ephesus. It's not the only problem, but at this point in his letter, he doesn't want us dwelling on the problems. He wants us to dwell on the things to bring us life. He wants us to dwell on the things that help to engage our hearts and our minds in a path of wisdom. And where he goes with it is right to music. He goes right to, doesn't he? He says that do these, to be wise and to have songs and hymns and spiritual songs that are guiding us as we teach and admonish one another in the scriptures. He goes to music as the vehicle from which we can benefit in learning the stuff of God. Now, how many of you knew that hymn that we sang first thing today? Anybody? How many of you liked it? You liked it. Okay. Yeah, it had some good words in it. Yeah, by the time you got to the third phrase, you heard it a couple times, like, oh, okay, I get it. But can anybody sing it now? No. All right, so it's never a good idea, just in public speaking, it's never a good idea to have a negative as an example. I'm just saying that. I probably should have picked a more popular hymn to start, one that you guys would know thoroughly. Tell me, what are some of your favorite songs, hymns, and spiritual songs? What are the things that get your heart stirring and lift up your soul when you sing them? Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace, absolutely. And to hear Aretha Franklin's version of it, oh my goodness, so deep and rich. What else do you have? How Great Thou Art. I can't sing that without crying. Because my grandmother died right in between the verse where it says, I'm going to have to look it up. But it's in the third verse, and it talks about, there I shall bow in humble adoration, and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art. So it's right at that point of transition between life and death. And when my mom and her sisters were singing that to her at her bedside, she passed right at that transition. What else? What else stirs your soul? Here I am, Lord. That very humble, you're asking for me, and I'm right here for you. Doris, this is a tough question for you because you have played, I don't know, probably hundreds, if not thousands, of different songs that you've encountered over the course of your life. How big would you imagine the body of music is that exists to speak of the truth of God? Infinite. Massive. And it's more than what we have in our file cabinets downstairs, right? Yeah, it's bigger than that. There's a service that we can start plugging into here at our church. It's called Song Select, and Song Select gives you access to over 70,000 songs that are available just in Christian contemporary music, not a thing that has to do with hymns or with orchestral pieces. It's massive. Tell me, what else? What else triggers you to joy? What else stirs that up in you when you're singing it, when you hear it? Open my eyes. A beautiful song to help us see what it is that God is trying to give to us. Open my eyes that I may see. Glimpses of truth thou hast for me, right? Place in my hand the wonderful key. And what would that key be? Say the Bible. Say the Bible. Yeah, that's it. Yep, that's the key. All right, Emma, give me something. Give me a song from LMS. Give me a song from Lancaster Mennonite. Give me a song from Camp. Give me a song that you come to the altar. I'm trying to think of it. It's not a hymn. It's not a hymn? Is it still okay for church? Even if it's not in the book? How's it go? You haven't heard it in a while. The Lord's Prayer. Beautiful. The church is one foundation. What do you think, Greg? What wondrous love is this? Oh, I love that one too. Bum, ba, da, 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 da. That's one of those hymns that I don't know if the tune was written for the lyric or the lyric was written for the tune, or if it was just this magical spirit-filled moment where both came together at one time in its composition, because it just fits so beautifully together, and it captures that mystery of how it is that God can love us so deeply. Absolutely love that one. Scott, what do you like to say? What song touches you? A mighty fortress is our God. It is such a strong hymn. Bum, 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 bum. I can't get down to the low note. I started too low. Autumn. Yahweh, I know you are near. Yep. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So, why do you think Paul goes to music? Well, I'll give you a hint. When Rich Mullins, who's one of my favorite Christian composers, was writing his music, people asked him, why didn't you go to seminary and become a preacher? Because he was so brilliant theologically. And he said, well, John Wesley was a preacher, and he wrote hymns. How many of John Wesley's sermons do you remember? But how many of John Wesley's hymns do you remember? Because music seats itself deeply within us. And the story that I like to tell of evidence of that is when my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and her fingers were all knurled from arthritis, and she couldn't remember our names. And the only word that she could say was no. You put her down at a piano, and she would play Whispering Hope. Both hands. Whispering hope, how welcome thy voice, making my soul in its sorrow rejoice. And I took that as God's way of communicating to us that there was something still hopeful inside my grandmother, despite the deep sorrow of Alzheimer's. Music is a powerful tool to communicate stuff of life. And there are so many songs that we have given ourselves over to. I can't believe how many I know that come across on 102.7 that I remember. But I'm looking forward to bringing a wider variety of music to us. A wider variety of music for us to sing and to plant within us, to learn and to carry deeply. Because I believe those songs and hymns and spiritual songs are important to becoming wise people. And it's joyful, isn't it? In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.